Hello everyone and welcome to another Animal Crossing New Horizons video. If you're new here, my name is Claire, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be designing a bakery and bookstore for the adorable Maple on my island, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the space that we're going to be working with. I had this little nook left over after building my entrance, so all of the terraforming was basically done, and I thought this would be a good little spot for some sort of shop since it's so close to the airport. I knew I wanted a bakery somewhere on my island, and since this is Maple's house, I thought a bookstore for the interior would suit her perfectly, since anytime I find a lost book on my island, it is hers. I started off by laying down a bit of a path just to see how much space I had to work with for the bakery, and I decided then to do a small bit of decorating up on the cliffs and down towards the beach as well. Otherwise I feel like this would have ended up looking a little bit unfinished. I will have to go back and finish those areas at some point because I basically just wanted it to look good if you were looking at the cliffs from Maple's house. So as long as you ignore all of the villagers' houses and the campsite to the left, I think it ends up looking pretty good. But anyway, I am starting to place down the bakery now, and how gorgeous is this dessert case? I used so many of the 2.0 update items for the inside and outside of this build. I honestly don't know how we used to design before the update, and I'm so happy that we don't have to catalogue each colour of an item. We can just head over to Cyrus and get things customised instead of having to trade for it or wait to get it yourself. I'm really enjoying working on my island now, and I'm so excited to see how it turns out in the end. And I know I said that this was going to be a farm core / spring core themed island, and there's not much of a farm going on here yet, but that won't be for long. I have so many ideas for this island and what I want to try out. I just wanted to get Maple's house done first because she is one of my absolute favourite villagers, and I know for sure that she'll be staying on my island. I've had Maple for such a long time. She was one of my original 10 villagers, I think, so she's been here since just after the game was released. But anyway, now I'm just starting to fill out the space by the beach, and you probably noticed that that bike was giving me such a hard time. It took me way too long to realise that it can't be moved from the back, but I got there in the end. Then I just filled up the rest of the space with a log bench and went back and added in some flowers later on as well. I left the beach itself empty because it's not really part of this build, and I'm undecided whether I'll decorate the beaches at all. I do like having them empty, so if I go back and decorate them, it'll definitely be very minimal anyway. Now I'm just moving on to the cliffs. I'm not going to be leaving them like this. I just didn't want a big empty cliff beside Maple's house, so all of this is just to kind of give the whole thing a nice background. I plan on extending this cliff toward the back of my island for future builds, so there really was no point going to town decorating it just to end up having to change the whole thing. I'm keeping the same colour palette as my entrance for this, with lots of reds and yellows to try and tie the whole thing together, but this will more than likely change throughout my island because I have so many hybrids on my beach at the moment, and I'm going to try to incorporate them somewhere. I'm starting to decorate the inside of Maple's garden now, which is going to be a seating area for the bakery. So I'm laying down some planks leading up to the house, and I know this does look a little odd not having the pattern starting directly in between the two fences, but I wanted to have some space to the side to decorate, and this was the only way really that I could make that work. Then I'm just laying down some more of my pathing just to make it look like the ground has been worn down over time by the tables and chairs that I'm going to put on top. I think I may end up using some of the in-game paths on other parts of my island because I don't know how I feel about none of my paths showing up on my map, but I don't think there's any way that I could lay an in-game path under this one without it looking a little bit weird. I only ended up with 2 tables outside, but I did put some more inside Maple's house as well. I used the garden table and some metal and wood chairs because I didn't really want them to match exactly, and I actually think that these two look really nice together. The next seating area is probably my favourite part of this whole build. I really wanted to use the castle wall somewhere on my island, but I didn't want to have a full-on castle, so I decided to just use the walls as a backdrop for this area, and I put some of the wee fields in there as well. I'm gonna have to start ordering wee fields every day for a while because I just want to put them absolutely everywhere. But anyway, I just love this little area so much. It's such a cute little date night spot, and usually when I make restaurants or cafes, I would make them look completely different to this. They would always be really bright and colourful, so it's nice to have something different for a change. And maybe it's just because I had such a bright island for a while, but I think this kind of colour palette is so much nicer to look at. I'm just going to be finishing off this area now by placing down an arch and putting in some more planks. I'm just adding the finishing touches to Maple's garden now, so just trying to fill in all of the extra bits of space. I am really sorry for all of the cuts in this section. I spent way too long trying to figure out the placement of these few things. Is it just me, or are these little spaces always the hardest to make look good? I only add a couple more things to the exterior now, just putting more fencing in front of the wee fields up on the cliff because I didn't really like how it looked the way it was. And then I place some weeds down to fill in the spaces, and finally I just put a tree and a clothesline off to the side to try and hide the houses and the campsite for now until they're moved. And that's it for the exterior, so it's time to start working on the interior of Maple's house now. Now we are starting to work on Maple's bookstore. As you can see, the inside of Maple's house was a bit of a mess. Anytime that she would ask me for items I was carrying around, I would just give them to her because I'd feel too bad to say no. My biggest regret being the sea bass that I didn't actually realise could be placed inside of villagers' houses at the time. But yeah, that sea bass has just been hanging out in Maple's house for the longest time, and all of the stuff I gave her ended up ruining her house after a while, which I was real sad about because her interior is one of my favourites. So I was really happy when I found out that we can now redecorate our villagers' homes. So for the bookstore, I used the library wall for an accent, and then I placed a partition wall where I wanted the checkout counter to be. I used some of the pillars to kind of divide up the space a bit, and I think this actually helped to make the room look a lot bigger. I love how you can make it look like more than one room just using these partitions and dividers, since we only have the one floor to work with in the villagers' houses. I'm finishing up this space by just placing some books and the retro cash register on the counter, and also placing one of the big bookshelves at the back because I wanted the whole back wall to be covered with books. And after I'm finished up with that, I started creating a seating area. I wanted this to feel really cozy, and like this would be the place that everyone would meet up and hang out, not just to buy books, so maybe grab something from the bakery and come inside to read a book or listen to some music, but then maybe I'm just thinking way too much into it. I just grabbed some random bits and pieces to decorate the ledge in front of the bookcase. At this stage I realised there was way too much brown going on in this room, so I wanted to add in a bit more colour, so I used the lacy rug to brighten it up a bit, and then just added in some extra cushions to make it look even more cosy. I added another bookcase then in the corner. I would have preferred to have something in a darker toned wood, but this is all that I could find that made sense and would fit into that little space. Next, I'm just trying to fill out some of the space on the walls with lights and pictures, although I do think this retro restaurant wall does a really good job of making the walls not look bare. For this last corner of the room, I just put in a table and chairs to make it look like you could grab something from the bakery and come and sit inside if you wanted to, and that's about it then for the interior. Anyways, we are just coming up to the end of the video now, so I'm going to wrap the voiceover up here. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and I would love to hear what you think of today's build in the comments below. I would also love if you would consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!